Welcome to the NFP Podcast, where we explore the empowering world of natural family planning. I'm Amy Smith. Join me and my co-host Emily Appledorn each week. Together, we're here to dive deep into the science, the stories, and the spirituality behind NFP. Every week, we push back against the free love culture and advocate for a culture of responsible love, where intentionality and respect are at the forefront of family planning. Join us as we discuss everything from the practicalities of charting and fertility awareness to the profound impact NFP can have on relationships and communities. Whether you're new to NFP or a seasoned pro, our podcast is your go-to resource for honest conversations, expert insights, and real-life experiences. So grab a friend, settle in, and get ready to be inspired. This is the NFP Podcast. All right, guys, welcome back to the podcast.
Hi, everyone.
So today, Emily and I are really excited. Given that it's kind of back to school season, we thought we would jump in to a new encyclical, which I thought about this, Emily, that it's kind of funny we're doing another encyclical because I don't think this is not our intention to do multiple encyclicals when we did Humani Vitae. And I think I even made a comment saying, if someone wants to start a podcast where you just read all the encyclicals for us, please do so. Yes. And it turns out that we're starting to become that podcast a little bit. So. But this one we had mentioned when we had Pearl and Thistle on. She had mentioned this encyclical, and Emily and I quick Googled it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we have to read this. This would be so great. And like I said, the kind of back to school time, we thought would be a fun time to do it because it's the guidelines for the education within the family on the truth and meaning of human sexuality. So it's from the Pontifical Council for the Family, and it was published on December 8th in 1995. So 30 years ago?
Yes.
Wow, 30 years ago. It's a good thing I'm not that old. Oh my gosh, 30 years ago. It was 1995. I wanted to say 20, and I'm like, no, 20 years ago was 2005. That's crazy. Wow.
That is crazy.
Yeah. So anyway, today we're going to pretty much do this like we've done our other encyclicals. Emily and I are going to trade off reading. And then, if we have any kind of thoughts, things that speak to us, we'll just have our conversation and wrap it up from there. So we'll carry this through the month of September. I think it's going to last us into early October, based on how we have it chunked out and spread out. And then we'll get back to our interviews with couples and professionals in the field of fertility awareness and natural family planning, and just our regular conversation. So let's get started. I'm going to start us off with the introduction. And it starts with the situation and the problem. So kind of laying the context and the groundwork. Among the many difficulties parents encounter today, despite different social contexts, one certainly stands out: giving children an adequate preparation for adult life, particularly with regard to education in the true meaning of sexuality. There are many reasons for this difficulty, and not all of them are new. In the past, even when the family did not provide specific sexual education, the general culture was permeated by respect for fundamental values and hence served to protect and maintain them. In the greater part of society, both in developed and developing countries, the decline of traditional models has left children deprived of consistent and positive guidance, while parents find themselves unprepared to provide adequate answers. This new context is made worse by what we observe, an eclipse of the truth about man, which, among other things, exerts pressure to reduce sex to something commonplace. In this area, society and the mass media most of the time provide depersonalized, recreational, and often pessimistic information. Moreover, this information does not take into account the different stages of formation and development of children and young people, and it is influenced by a distorted individualistic concept of freedom, in an ambience lacking the basic values of life, human love, and the family. Then the school, making itself available to carry out programs of sex education, has often done this by taking the place of the family, and most of the time with the aim of only providing information. Sometimes this really leads to the deformation of consciences. In many cases, parents have given up their duty in this field or agreed to delegate it to others because of the difficulty and their own lack of preparation. In such a situation, many Catholic parents turn to the church to take up the task of providing guidance and suggestions for educating their children, especially in the phase of childhood and adolescence. At times, parents themselves have brought up their difficulties when they are confronted by teaching given at school and thus brought into the home by their children. The Pontifical Council for the Family has received repeated and pressing requests to provide guidelines in support of parents in this delicate area of education.
Aware of this family dimension of education for love and for living one's own sexuality properly and conscious of the unique experience of humanity of the community of believers, our council wishes to put forward pastoral guidelines, drawing on the wisdom which comes from the word of the Lord and the values which illuminate the teaching of the Church. Therefore, above all, we wish to tie this help for parents to fundamental content about the truth and meaning of sex within the framework of a genuine and rich anthropology. In offering this truth, we are aware that everyone who is of the truth hears the word of the one who is the truth in person. This guide is meant to be neither a treatise of moral theology nor a compendium of psychology, but it does owe much to the gains of science, to the socio-cultural conditions of the family, and to the proclamation of gospel values, which are always new and can be incarnated in a concrete way in every age.
In this field, the Church is strengthened by some unquestionable certainties that have also guided the preparation of this document. Love is a gift of God, nourished by and expressed in the encounter of man and woman. Love is thus a positive force directed towards their growth in maturity as persons. In the plan of life, which represents each person's vocation, love is also a precious source for the self-giving which all men and women are called to make for their own self-realization and happiness. In fact, man is called to love as an incarnate spirit, that is, soul and body in the unity of the person. Human love hence embraces the body, and the body also expresses spiritual love. Therefore, sexuality is not something purely biological. Rather, it concerns the intimate nucleus of the person. The use of sexuality as physical giving has its own truth and reaches its full meaning when it expresses the personal giving of man and woman, even unto death. As with the whole of the person's life, love is exposed to the frailty brought about by original sin, a frailty experienced today in many socio-cultural contexts marked by strong negative influences, at times deviant and traumatic. Nevertheless, the Lord's redemption has made the positive practice of chastity into something that is really possible and a motive for joy, both of those who have the vocation to marriage, before in the time of preparation and afterwards in the course of married life, as well as for those who have the gift of a special calling to the consecrated life.
In the light of the redemption and how adolescents and young people are formed, the virtue of chastity is found within temperance, a cardinal virtue elevated and enriched by grace in baptism. So chastity is not to be understood as a repressive attitude. On the contrary, chastity should be understood rather as the purity and temporary stewardship of a precious and rich gift of love, in view of the self-giving realized in each person's specific vocation. Chastity is thus that spiritual energy capable of defending love from the perils of selfishness and aggressiveness and able to advance it towards its full realization. The Catechism of the Catholic Church describes and, in a sense, defines chastity in this way. Chastity means the successful integration of sexuality within the person and thus the inner unity of man in his bodily and spiritual being.
In the framework of educating the young person for self-realization and self-giving, formation for chastity implies the collaboration first and foremost of the parents, as is the case with formation for the other virtues such as temperance, fortitude, and prudence. Chastity cannot exist as a virtue without the capacity to renounce yourself, to make sacrifices, and to wait. In giving life, parents cooperate with the creative power of God and receive the gift of a new responsibility, not only to feed their children and satisfy their material and cultural needs, but above all to pass on to them the lived truth of the faith and to educate them in love of God and neighbor. This is the parent's first duty in the heart of the domestic church. The church has always affirmed that parents have the duty and the right to be the first and the principal educators of their children. Taking up the teaching of the Second Vatican Council, the Catechism of the Catholic Church says, quote, "It is imperative to give suitable and timely instruction to young people, above all in the heart of their own families, about the dignity of married love, its role and its exercise," end quote.
The challenges raised today by the mentality and social environment should not discourage parents. In fact, it is worth recalling that Christians have had to face up to similar challenges of materialistic hedonism from the time of the first evangelization. Moreover, this kind of critical reflection should lead our society, which certainly contains many positive aspects on the material and cultural level, to realize that from various points of view, it is a society which is sick and is creating profound distortions in man. Why is this happening? The reason is that our society has broken away from the full truth about man, from the truth about what man and woman really are as persons. Thus, it cannot adequately comprehend the real meaning of the gift of persons in marriage, responsible love at the service of fatherhood and motherhood, and the true grandeur of procreation and education.
Therefore, the educative work of parents is indispensable for, quote, "If it is true that by giving life, parents share in God's creative work, it is also true that by raising their children, they become sharers in his paternal and at the same time eternal way of teaching. Through Christ, all education, within the family and outside of it, becomes part of God's own saving pedagogy, which is addressed to individuals and families and culminates in the paschal mystery of the Lord's death and resurrection. In their, at times, delicate and arduous task, parents must not let themselves become discouraged. Rather, they should place their trust in the help of God, the Creator, and Christ, the Redeemer. They should remember that the Church prays for them with the words that Pope St. Clement the First raised to the Lord for all who bear authority in his name. Quote, "Grant to them, Lord, health, peace, concord, and stability, so that they may exercise without offense the sovereignty that you have given them. Master, heavenly King of the ages, you give glory, honor, and power over the things of the earth to the sons of man. Direct, Lord, their counsel, following what is pleasing and acceptable in your sight, so that by exercising with devotion and in peace and gentleness the power that you have given to them, they may find favor with you." End quote. On the other hand, having given and welcomed life in an atmosphere of love, parents are rich in an educative potential which no one else possesses. In a unique way, they know their own children. They know them in their unrepeatable identity, and by experience, they possess the secrets and the resources of true love. Okay.
I'm all in. Like
I know.
I just want to know what else.
I know. I want to keep going. Yeah, this is going to be so great.
Wow, it's amazing.
I find it interesting that, they're talking about the current time, this great part of this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like, you thought it was bad in 1995.
Right. Yeah.
Boy, now we've got like, all the things about
So
people
much confusion.
not knowing what gender they are, thinking they're the other gender, and just
right
on like such mass scale. I know it's always
everything
existed,
is
but
expanded.
yeah, it's just become even more. The family has only fallen further than it did in 1995. So
Absolutely.
yeah, the timeliness. I feel like it's the same thing when you first start Humani Vitae. You're like, whoa,
Yes.
are they talking about today?
Right. Yeah.
So probably just
Definitely.
evidence of the Holy Spirit
being timeless. Yeah.
being timeless, right? Yeah,
Sure.
and offering support. So yeah, I mean, I love this. I felt like as a Catholic parent, I feel like it's that beautiful mix of like truth and love. Reminding me of my role as a parent, as the primary educator, and the one solely responsible in the end for my children's souls.
Right.
At the same time, reminding me of God's, unfathomable mercy and his grace sustaining me. And like, I feel like if with those two combined, it just gives me so much hope to know that like, okay, Lord, like I'm trying, and if I just, we talk about that all the time, Emily.
All the time. Like that's the motto of our friendship.
Our friendship. That's so funny. I was just going to say the same thing. I was going to say, if our friendship had a motto, that would be it. Like, just try. Like, you just try. And I feel like that's it. It's like, if we just try, with like a good try, not just like half-hearted, but like I desire this outcome, Lord. I want my children to know the goodness and beauty of human sexuality and the true meaning of it. And I want them to not be afraid, and to feel confident and stand confident in that. I know we talked about that a lot with Dr. Sadusky, but
Yes.
but
I
I
feel
also
like,
recognize how powerless I am in a lot of ways. Go ahead.
yes, like the church gives us the tools. Like we shouldn't be fearful. Like we really do have the support. We may have to go out and seek it out. And if it feels like someone doesn't have support, just know that it might take a little bit of research and learning on the parents' end, right? Like we talked
Right.
about that. Like so often we weren't taught as parents, or as kids. So in order to educate our family, we are going to have to educate ourselves, and that might take some time, but the resources are there. They
Right,
really
right, right. Yep. And I think too, something that I guess just Joey and I talk about a lot is like wanting my children, like who my children are around, like their peer influence. I want them, especially, I want to say especially, but I don't think it's especially. I think it would just be different for boys and girls. But right now, like I'm raising all boys, and I just want them to have exposure to wonderful, strong Catholic males. Who are also like younger too, which is one of the reasons I really enjoyed being around Catholic campus, like college communities, because they get to see that. Like I remember when we were at William and Mary and we went to mass, and there were all these like young guys at mass and go to adoration, they go to confession, and like I didn't have to say anything. I just brought my kids there and they just saw, and there were other families there bringing their teenage kids there, and their teenage kids were going up to receive the Eucharist and making time for retreats and doing these things. Like, so it just becomes, and trying to practice chastity, like, so they can see, like, oh, helping them to have a culture where they can practice those virtues and those values. It's immensely helpful. It's immensely helpful. I think sometimes as Catholics, we pride ourselves on go into the world and help those in need, and in our Catholic schools we welcome everyone regardless of their home culture. And while there's goodness in that, there's also a struggle in that to maintain our Catholic identity and to help form other Catholics. Because, well, now at a Catholic school, we actually have a ton of different home cultures who are now, influencing this one culture, which is reality. We live in a world where there's other cultures, but what's the primary purpose of this institution? It's to form us in the Catholic worldview. And that's really hard to do when you are a young person, conflicted and hearing all these different worldviews. So I think this is where maybe I could be accused of like sheltering my children. And I think we've talked about this before too, Emily. Like, I don't view it as sheltering. I'm forming them. So when they go into the world, and we talk about other things too in this formation process, but when they go into a world and they're now exposed to things, they're already well formed in their worldview, and they can take this new information and they can ask questions and they can analyze things, and they don't have to be afraid of it, but they also have a solid foundation. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think that that's the beauty of taking your vocation seriously, right? Like it's constantly in the forefront of your mind, and how and what you're saying and doing and the examples that you're putting in front of your kids, whether it's you and Joey or, your community. I think, yeah, it's just, I think it's really a beautiful testament to the intentionality behind your vocation. It's really
Well,
beautiful.
and something we were talking about before we started recording was like, having our kids watch shows and screens and things. And
Yes.
that's definitely something I've had to just be more alert of with shows when we're introducing a new show, is to just kind of check, the language and what's kind of being presented. Most things are like just silly, but it's like, well, but what else is kind of underlying this message? And how are the characters being portrayed, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, that media influence, because I was at the gym this morning, and there was like, I was listening to like a mix of like Christian songs. There's a song that came on, and basically the artist was singing but describing like how the devil shows up. He's not in like a red mask with horns and a tail.
Right.
And I think that's something that the cunning and the baffling part of him, and that evil is, as parents, there's just so much going on. Like I am a parent in a busy season. Like there's just a lot, to be responsible and aware of. It's an all-encompassing job being a parent. It truly is. And to be kind of on guard for the little things because I don't know if I've shared on the podcast. I think we've talked about it before, Emily, but like when I was doing some work with the library when we used to live in a different part of Virginia, and it seems so, I feel like I was sometimes thought of as like, oh gosh, you're just, because I thought like this too. Like, this is just so like minute, like just let it go, which is like what I'm talking about is children's literature that portrays disordered human relationship. Okay. So different forms of quote unquote marriage, which is not marriage, but you know what I mean? Like different forms of couples and children and family styles and things. And we're not talking about like a mom and a dad who's black and white and their kids are mixed. We're talking about, two quote unquote moms, two quote unquote dads. And I was saying how when this is portrayed in children's literature with the bright colors and the fun stories, like the intention behind it, it's so subtly evil. And that's how it starts to trickle in because it's the normalization, trying to establish normality, which is all about those early years because that is when they're so moldable of like, what is normal? I don't know what's normal. And so they have to be taught and told and shown. And I think that's just, yeah, as parents, whether it's shows or books or friends, whatever it is, like helping them to filter the world and establish normality. Oh, it's really hard. It's a full-time job, for sure. The education of our children. It's not just the ABCs. So,
Right. But I think, I mean, if you don't mind elaborating, like, I think it would be awesome to share in the moment in the library, like how, um, what's the word? Like what am I trying to say? How not conflicted, how much you felt like you needed to say something.
oh, right.
What am
Yeah.
I don't know the word. I'm blanking on the word. I'm convicted.
Convicted. Right.
Convicted. Yeah, how
Yeah.
convicted you felt. And then what happened?
Yeah. It was such a weird, I feel like, I actually don't like controversy, which I think some people would be like, really? Because like all the things you do seem very controversial, like the things I'm interested in. But I'm actually not. Like I'm just genuinely curious about a lot of these things and I enjoy having conversations that are not necessarily controversial about these things. But anyway, I was at the library and I saw this display of books and I just immediately felt like, oh my gosh, this is not okay. And this is a public library that's publicly taxpayer funded. I am one of those taxpayers. And I just thought, like, okay, like my money is supporting this. I just felt like this weight of responsibility all of a sudden of like, I see it. I can't not say something now of like, hey, please don't put this in the children's section. So it's not in front of my kids. Like, I kind of don't care what you do in the adult section, but please just don't do this in the children's section. Anyway, long story short, I ended up going to like the library like board meeting, which apparently not a lot of people go to. So I went and that's all I voiced. I just said, as a parent, because something else had popped up on this like reading club that my son was doing at the time. And it was about this like the trans pride flag or parade or whatever. And I had to like kind of explain it away because it caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting this. So anyway, that and then seeing books, it just kind of all led to it. And so I went to the library and luckily the next year, the library just did like the adult section even, like all of the displays looked the same. There was nothing overt. So like if you were not interested, you could just simply walk by. Your kids probably would never have noticed the displays. There wasn't anything big about them or grand. And there wasn't anything big and over in the children's section. And so I was so grateful for that. Like,
It's amazing, Amy. It really
yeah,
is
I was really
amazing.
grateful for that. So, yeah, I think it
It
is
just
important to
goes
know
to
that. Like,
show. Yeah, it goes to show how one person's voice can really change things. Like we shouldn't be afraid of that.
right. And you don't have to do it combatively. Again, I was very well aware, like I am one person who contributes funding to this public institution. So if there's like a whole group of moms that are like coming in and saying like, we want the trans books right in front of our kids, like, okay, I'm kind of like one voice against the many, but there was no one else saying anything. And I kept saying that. I was like, if other people feel very strongly the other way, please bring that up. But what kind of came about was this wasn't coming from the community. This was kind of like coming from top down of people who were providing this service as we pay their salary as taxpayers, they were feeding us this content. And I'm just basically saying, like, I don't want this content. Like, give me something else, please, at the library. So there was like some pushback from, I guess, within the library system of like the librarians not wanting to change or thinking it was really important. But I just thought it was funny. It's like you go to any other kind of institution, right? And it's like, you're trying to sell us like apples and all of us want oranges. Like, why do you keep selling us apples? Like, none of us want this.
Exactly.
They would stop that immediately because their customer base would stop. But you
Exactly.
are funded by our taxes, which we have to pay. So the incentive to listen to us is not necessarily there all the time. But in this case, yeah, were very amenable. And I feel like the way it was handled was like, happy, lots of parties were happy. And yeah, so it was good. Anyway,
That's
I don't know how we got
amazing.
on that topic, but just to say, like, I think, oh yeah, cultural influences, all the things that can influence our work, and it's not to help us. It should not discourage us as parents to continue to press on in educating our children in the truth, even if we're living in a culture at a time in a city that maybe has very loud, voice in the opposite, kind of pushing the opposite agenda. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think it's really admirable.
So it's
Mm.
hard, right? Like that's how the saints are made. So, any thoughts, Emily, from the introduction that you wanted to share?
Yes. No, I loved that it specifically defined from the catechism the definition of chastity. I just thought that was really beautiful. I think for me, that term gets thrown around so often. I use it myself. And just to hear it be said, chastity means the successful integration of sexuality within the person and thus the inner unity of man in his bodily and spiritual being. It's just very simple. And it just kind of brings that word to life for me. I think that's really beautiful.
And applies to everyone, no matter your state in life, because it doesn't
Yes.
say chastity means having sex in the appropriate context.
Yes.
No, it's an integration of your sexuality. It's what does it mean to be male and female in this state of life that I'm in? How can I blend how is my body and soul, how are my body and soul united? How do I
Right.
live in both of them? Because in the Catholic faith, we don't believe one is higher than the other. We believe that they're together, that the body and the soul are one, and that we live in that unity, the inner unity of man. I agree, Emily. I think that the definition is just perfect and applicable even to our
It is
children, that we can
perfect.
be teaching them
Yes.
how to live
Yes.
in that unity, and even now as smaller children and as they grow. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Excellent. um yeah, I don't think I had anything. I'm trying to think if
Yeah,
there's
I think
anything else.
that's it for the intro. I'm
Yeah.
excited to read the rest.
Yeah, me too. Next time we'll
Yeah.
kind of dive into the next section, which is called to true love. So
Sounds
yeah,
good.
I'm just so excited. I love all of these things and I love the encyclicals, and I'm really grateful there was one written about that. Oh, the prayer. That was the other thing I wanted to say. The Pope St. Clement the First prayer.
Oh, yes.
Oh, I kind of want to like change the wording around almost to make it like a personal prayer. Like, wow,
Yes.
what a great prayer for a parent to pray, right?
So
Like,
beautiful. Oh, there it is. Yeah.
it is
Okay,
so
read that
beautiful.
again.
Okay,
Yeah.
let me read. I'm going to read. Maybe we can close with that.
Yes, that's perfect.
I'm going to read it more like instead of him praying for us,
Yes.
how we as parents could maybe pray it for ourselves in trying to live this out. Oh, but before I do that, Emily, I just wanted to circle back to something you had said though about, if we don't feel as parents that we're confident in this area, or we're not looking forward to doing this, or we don't want to do this, this is just something maybe we feel conflicted with our own past and things that we've done, or maybe we don't feel conflicted by that. We just don't feel confident that we have the tools. Please go back. We have so many good episodes so far with great resources for books that you can read as a parent. Not only for you to be able to have the conversations with your kids, so how to help teach them, but even when we had Pearl and Thistle on, the book that she wrote for your own healing. So if we as parents, I know I have experienced this too, like seeking out healing is only going to help your children. Like the best version of you is only going to help you raise your children better. So don't be afraid of seeking God as healer, because he wants to heal you. He gave you these children, and the humbling part of parenting, right, is that like the Lord uses my children to bring about healing in me too. It's not just Yeah, right, Emily?
It's
Like,
so beautiful when you see that and witness that and experience that. It's really
yes.
unreal.
It
Yeah,
really is. It makes family such a communal, like such the image of the Trinity, right? Like we are,
absolutely.
even though my little people don't have no clue that they're helping me, they are helping me. They're making me such a better person. Um, okay, let's segue to that just really fast, little tangent. So
Yes.
I was following this like online trend a little bit right now about I guess which I don't know if this is necessarily like a new trend, but women that are just like really afraid of motherhood. And then I'm seeing like a Christian response of like telling them like how, motherhood's really great. It's hard, but it's so worth it. It's really great. Um, and I guess I just was thinking, I'm like, gosh, you know what? But it's not only, I don't know. It's almost like what is the best way to sell it to people? So women are off put by motherhood. Like, yeah, what would be the best way to sell it to someone? I think like with most things in life, they just have to see people living it joyfully, right?
I
It,
agree.
it would be a lie though to say like, oh, it's just like the best thing since sliced bread because it's been the hardest thing
Right.
I've ever done. But you know what, Emily, this is what I thought about. It's like this has actually been the hardest thing. It is the hardest thing I do every day is my role as wife and mother because this is my life and it's stretching me. Just like if my life was to be working and doing something in an office, that would be stretching me because that would be the role that I'm in. And I feel like women do really hard things. Like they've
All
prided
the time.
themselves on doing
Yes.
really hard things, right?
Yes.
Academically hard things, physically hard things, running marathons, doing Olympic. Like we've done our, so I feel like to say like, oh, but motherhood, like that's just like something I'm like, no, you do hard stuff all the time. You could do motherhood. Like it's hard. It's going to grow you. It's going to stretch you. It's the hardest thing you've ever done. You could do other things, but they're not going to be as hard. So it's probably not like the best
No, I think
promotion for motherhood, but I feel like it's just
yeah,
true. It's like,
it
yeah,
is
kind of like
true.
suck it up, buttercup in a way,
Right, right. And it's fear of the unknown, but it's
for sure.
also fear of, I mean, I would venture to say that anyone that has a fear of motherhood probably has a pretty good understanding of the fact that their life is going to change drastically. And that means that the things that they are currently doing or want to do might not be the things that they are going to be doing. And
Right.
so, like, maybe, I don't know if fear, I mean, I could imagine a fear around that or just an uncomfortableness, right? Like,
Right.
we live in a world where we do what we want to do and we don't do things we don't want to do. And it's just the way that the world is set up. We
Right.
don't have to a lot of times.
Right.
And so I think that these women probably have a pretty good idea. Like there's going to be some changes and maybe I'm not ready for that, you
Right.
know?
Right. 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 Yeah,
So,
it's very true. I mean,
yeah.
yeah, I think that is like an honest assessment. So I guess I just feel like when I hear feedback from that or people like try like, no, it's really great. It's really great. I'm like, it is great and it's really hard. Like actually everything you're probably thinking is true. Like
Exactly.
everything in your life will change. But you just can't I feel like with most I'm trying to think of another thing in life that's like this, and I can't think of something. But motherhood is definitely one of those things where it's all the things you're afraid of, right? Like you lose yourself. And at the same time, it is like something you just have to experience to say, like,
You do.
it's also the most amazing thing,
It
which
is
is the paradox of life and parenting and becoming a parent. And
the beauty of life.
yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, this is the hardest thing in the whole world ever, especially a first time parent. But it's like, it's
Yes.
also the best. Like, there's this human being. I mean,
It
that
doesn't
moment.
matter how
Yeah.
bad things are. You look at that baby or that child and you're just like, oh, I'm just obsessed with you. Like,
Right.
it
Yeah.
doesn't even matter. You
Right.
finally put them to bed, you desire to get them to
Right.
bed, and then you're awake, like, oh, I just kind of
I
miss
miss them.
them. Like, how does
Isn't
how is that
there's a
even
meme about that?
possible? I've
Yes,
seen
there's a
that
split
too.
screen meme. Have you seen it,
Yeah.
Emily? She's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
please, she's walking the baby, screaming, please go to bed, please go to bed, please go to bed. Then he goes to bed and she's standing there looking at him like, please wake up. When will you? I started laughing
It's
so hard. I'm like,
it
yes, that
is.
is parenting in a summary right
It
there.
really is.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's end with this prayer because it was so beautiful. And yeah, and then we'll continue on next week. Grant me, O Lord, health, peace, concord, and stability, so that I may exercise without offense the sovereignty that you have given me. Master, heavenly King of the ages, you give glory, honor, and power over the things of the earth to the sons of men. Direct, O Lord, my counsel. following what is pleasing and acceptable in your sight, so that by exercising with devotion and in peace and gentleness the power that you have given to me, that I may find favor with you. Amen.
Amen.
I love that.
I
Oh,
have
that's like a
chills.
new parenting prayer.
I'm definitely saving that.
Oh, me too, Emily. So good. All right, my dear. This has been fun. I
It
will
is.
see you next week. Goodbye, everybody. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks for listening.
Bye-bye.
That wraps up another episode of the NFP Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you found our discussion enlightening and empowering. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. We'd love to hear from you. Please connect with us by sending us an email with your questions and stories to thenfpshow@gmail.com. We'll be back next week with more insights, tips, and heartfelt conversations about natural family planning. Until then, love responsibly.